नमोस्तु मद एक बंधु मद संगेन मद गुरुन् मद महाधन मद निष्ठारक मद भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधु तादा इन अचिनीच तथाकरा हा नामुंचा कदाचिन मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्पुरः ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भागवताम की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय हरे कृष्ण. So, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. Nice to see you all on this Sunday morning. So, if you can turn on your cameras, please feel free to do so. So, we are in Canto 3, chapter number 32, chapter entitled Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So, this is the last chapter in Kapil Dev's teachings to his mother, Devahuti. Okay. So, we stopped on text number 21, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so let's do a quick review of this chapter and the last few verses. Right? Is that right? Stopped at 2021.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So,
Yes.
so let's do a quick overview of this chapter. So what is being presented in this chapter? So after the previous in the previous chapters we saw this whole samsmriti, the cycle of birth and death, and we saw that how starting with Kapil Dev describing that what happens at the time of death. We read the whole thing about Yamadutas and punishment, and how the finally after all the punishment Jiva enters into a womb. Then when he inside the womb, what happens, and outside he comes out, what happens. And it was the whole thing was just like suffering, suffering, suffering. And the whole point is get out of the cycle of birth and then this samsmriti, right? And then in this chapter, he starts off by saying who actually is qualified to get out and who actually stays in this material world, right? So he starts off by describing the graha medis, right? Or the sakam karmis who are actually working with attachment to the results. And they actually, because they are Sakam Karmis, they follow some aspect of the Vedas. They worship the demigods, they worship the Pitras, and by that, they actually accumulate piety, right? They get punya. And by getting that punya, maybe they are promoted to the Chandraloka, right? They get to go to the moon planet without any of these spaceships, right? So they may be promoted to the moon loka. And Chandraloka, they go there, but then what happens when the pious credits are actually exhausted? They have to come back to this material world, right? And not only that, but Kapil Dev made the point that at a particular moment when Brahma's day is actually finished, at the end of his day, then all these lower planets are actually all destroyed. So even if you're going there, the planet itself is going to get destroyed. So is that really worth aspiring for? And you're not actually getting out of the cycle of birth and death. Right? That was the first section. The second section was about, okay, those who actually do, so we talk of Sakam Karma Yoga. Now we are talking of Nishkam Karma Yoga. And particularly the word there that was used was Nyasta Karmanaha. Nyasta Karmanaha means they are not attached to the results of their work. At the same time, they are offering the results to Krishna. Nastya Karmanaha. They are offering it to Krishna. And when they actually do that, when they offer their results to Krishna, then they become peaceful, their consciousness becomes purified, and then they actually travel through the path of the sun and they actually attain the Lord. Right. So he's contrasting those who are attached to the results to those who are not attached to the results, and at the same time they give the results to Krishna. Right? Now, and then the third category he talks is the Hiranyagarbhas. The Hiranyagarbha worshippers are who? Those who actually worship Brahma, and a little bit more advanced, they may worship Brahma with some devotion to Vishnu. Right? So then the two classes are mentioned in even Hiranyagarbhas, that how those who actually worship Brahma, but they do not have devotion to Vishnu, then what happens? They enter into the body of Brahma. Right? Because they are worshipping Brahma, they are performing austerities, they enter into the body of Brahma. And when Brahma's life ends, what happens to them? May get liberated, but what is their situation? They will actually enter into Mahavishnu, But when the next universe is Mahavishnu breathes out the next time the universe, the breath through the universe, all this through the breath, all the universes come out, then they actually return back to this material world. That is one class of the Hiranyagarbha. But again, there's the other class who actually, when they worship Brahma, they have that devotion to Vishnu. And when Brahma gets liberated after 100 years of Brahma, even they actually get liberated. All right. So again, so one is the group of Sakam Karma Yogis. They are not liberated. They come back. Second is a group of Nishkam Karma Yogis. They can actually attain the Lord. Third is the Hiranyagarbha. In that, there are two classes. One class is worshipping Brahma, but they also worship Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? So devotion to Vishnu. Then when Brahma gets liberated, they can get liberated. Other classes, Hiranyagarbha worshippers, they worship only Brahma with no devotion to Vishnu. Then they actually go into Mahavishnu, but they come back. Right? And the whole point of this chapter is to see who will actually finally attain the Lord and who will not attain the Lord. Right? Because the whole how do you get out of the cycle? The whole thing is like, okay, so that's the point being discussed. Now in text number 11, after giving these four classes, what does he say? Text 11 is like one of the you know tasmat verses, right? Atha tvam sarvabhutanam, where he says, therefore atha, what should you do? By devotional service, take direct shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is actually situated in the heart of every living entity. So we are seeing we are in the last chapter of Kapil Dev's teachings. We are in the conclusion. And what is Kapil Dev's conclusion? One verse of conclusion is text 11. Therefore, what should you do? Take direct shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. Right? So that was text 11, where he actually made the point and gave the conclusion. So what we shall all do? Take direct shelter of Krishna. Engage in devotional service to Krishna. Right? Now also here the word bhavena. So we see in this verse there's the word bhavena used, and later on again Kapila Dev used the word bhavena, right? And what does this word bhavena mean? So Prabhupada explains bhavena as a stage of bhav bhakti. And if we go back to chapter number 25, where Kapil Dev talked of pure devotional service, there also he made the point, what should be the quality of pure devotional service? One should actually come to the stage of bhava, where there is the spontaneous love for Krishna. That bhakti is what Kapil Dev is recommending. Therefore, take shelter and come to a stage of bhavena. Vraja bhavena bhamini, right? So go to Vraj, go to it is said Vraj, go to Vrindavan, right? So Vraja bhavena and engage in devotional service, right? Take sharanam, shelter of the Lord. Okay, so that's that. And then further, he actually again contrasts and he says that even Brahma, even the four Kumaras and other personality, the great sages, uh, they actually, if they have Bheda Drishti, right? Bheda Drishti means they have a vision separate from that of the Lord, in the sense that they actually see themselves as independent of the Lord, or they have the mentality of doership, right? If they have that, even though they are so exalted, they have to come back, right? So they have to come back. So, okay. Now, the last section, 16 to 21. Let's just read the English for these verses, 16 to 20, and then I'll summarize. And here again, he's criticizing. So, Sakam Karma, Nishkam Karma, Hiranyagarbhas, and then even Brahma without devotion. All this has been explained. Now, again, he's going to criticize Sakam Karmis, and then we'll proceed to how Bhakti will give everything. It gives a result of everything. Okay, so 16 to 21, we'll just read the English translation. Who's starting? Okay, go ahead. They've been telling what they will start. Maybe you can read two verses and then so.
Okay. Hare Krishna. 16. Persons who are too addicted to this material world execute their prescribed duties very nicely and with great faith. They daily perform all such prescribed duties with attachment to the fruitive results. Text 17. Such persons, impelled by the mode of passion, are full of anxiety and always aspire for sense gratification due to uncontrolled senses. They worship the forefathers and are busy day and night improving the economic conditions of their family, social, or national life.
Hmm.
Right?
So what is like points that is common in this? Yes, he's talking of Sakam Karma, but in 16, what does he make the point? How do they do Sakam Karma? Very nicely with great faith. Shraddha Yanvitaha. So yes, even he's pointing out Sakam Karma Yoga also involves that attention. One has to nicely do one's duty. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually compares what? Kamya Karma and Nitya Karma. Everyone remembers this? Starting of the 18th chapter, Krishna actually talks of Kamya Karma and Nitya Karma. What is Kamya Karma? Anyone remembers? Kamya Karma. So, which are activities performed with some material desire. Kamya. Because they have some desire, hence they are doing it. And then there is Nitya Karma. Nitya Karma is prescribed duties, right? So, and then there the section is basically talking of should one give up both Kamya Karma and Nitya Karma, right? And Krishna actually makes a point. One should give up Kamya Karma for sure, but Nitya Karma one should actually do, but change one's consciousness, do it as an offering to Krishna. So that's the conclusion of 18th chapter. But here it's actually said that yes, they do Kamya Karma, they're doing all their activities, and also Nityani, they're doing their daily prescribed duties. Okay. Uh, so both the points are actually there here. They are doing both of these, but they are attached to the results. And text 17 is actually making the point that why are they attached to the results, knowing that even knowing that this sakam karma is actually not going to give them the perfection, why they are attached to the results, and also knowing the results is not in their hands, why are they still attached? Because they are impelled by the mode of passion. Passion means what? 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does it say? What is the main characteristic of the mode of passion? Unlimited desires. Because they have unlimited desires, they cannot give up the attachment to the result. And because, unlimited desires, they work so hard, they are doing their duties properly with attention, with shraddha, but they are full of anxieties because the desires are never fulfilled. Okay. And yes, because of uncontrolled senses, they aspire for sense gratification. And then to get the results, they may do Pitra Puja, right? They worship the forefathers. They're busy day and night to improve the economic condition of their life. Right? So this is all Sakam Karma. Okay, so next let's read 18 and 19.
Text 18. Such persons are called trivirgika because they are interested in three elevating processes. They are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can give relief to the conditioned soul. They are not interested in the Supreme Personality's pastime, which are worth hearing because of his transcendental prowess.
Hmm.
Text 19. Such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Hare Krishna.
So I mean, here this Bhagavatam is like Bhagavatam is so heavy one way, right? So here, what is it actually making the point? See, what are these people called? Trivargikaha. What is a trivarga? What's trivarga? Three:
धर्म अर्थ काम
Dharma, Artha, and Kama. So they are called Trivarga because they are interested just in elevating. Three elevating processes are called Dharma, Artha, and Kama. They will do Dharma. They are doing their prescribed duties, worshipping the demigods, and so that what? They can get Artha, and from Artha, Kama. So that's what they are focused, not Moksha, right? So these three is the focus. And then here it is said, Vimukha Hari Medasaha. Mukha. Mukha means face, and they turn their face against, away from whom? Hari, Lord Hari. Right? So they actually turn their face away from Hari. They are not interested in Hari Kathayam, the pastimes of the Lord, which are what? Kathaniya. They are word chanting. It's word chanting the glories of the Lord. Why? Because the glories of the Lord are Uru Vikramasya. They are excellent prowess. They have excellent, Lord has excellent prowess. And Madhudvisha is a killer of Madhu demon. So hence, the activities of the Lord are worth hearing, but they are vimukha. Therefore, in text 19, what does it say? They actually are condemned by the Lord himself. Nunam daivena vihata. They are condemned by the Lord. Why? Achyuta katha shuddham hitva. Hitva means they have given up. They have given up what? Achyuta katha shuddham. The nectar of Harikatha. And they are hearing what? The katha about materialistic people. Srinmati Asad Katha. Those who are Asad, they're hearing stories about Bollywood star, sports star, this star, that star, all these stars. But they don't want to hear Harikatha, right? Hence they are condemned by the order of the Lord. They are given of the Achyuta Katha Shuddham, the nectar of Harikatha they are given. And here Bhagavatam is actually so heavy, saying that they are compared to what? With Bhujaha, stool eating hogs. Right? And why stool eating hogs? Because let's say you go to a hog and serve him nice halwa prasadam, right? And then you serve obnoxious stool. What will the hog select? He'll actually select the stool, the obnoxious smelling stool, right? And actually, Prabhupada tells the story. Uh, he talks about Bhakti Sansari Thakur, that how in Burma, Sunday morning, but I'll tell this thing. In Burma, they actually, when Bhakti Sansari Thakur and his disciples, they were actually preaching and they were cooking nice puris in ghee, right? And when they were doing that, the neighbors started complaining. Oh, such bad smell, you know. And Prabhupada makes a point. In Burma, like, that kind of people or whatever, that time, they actually have a drink called nafi. Everyone knows this? They heard this story? So what they do is, and it's quite disgusting, but they say that they actually keep a pot outside the house, and whenever there's dead animals, they'll just come and put the dead animals inside. And then when the rainwater comes, they allow it to flow in, and then it's like, and then they allow the dead bodies to rot for years, and it's like such a bad smell. But for them, it is like they don't care. And then after that, after it's wrathfully, like, finally, when there is a festival, they actually clean, like, strain that and serve that as a drink to everyone. It's called nafi. And Prabhupada makes a point. He says, like, this is so disgusting smell, you know. Like they cover it, and then it's just like, as soon as they open, it's like so disgusting. But what are these kind of people? They are saying this is good, and then the ghee, which is actually they are used to frying puri, that they are saying it's horrible smell. So these kind of people are actually condemned in our Shastra. So here is saying Daiva, they're condemned by Daiva, by the Lord himself, that they have actually given up this Hari Katha and they are hearing sportsman, politician, rich man, this character, and then all imaginary characters, right? I mean, all children, they grow up hearing Harry Potter, and then I mean, it's like, our generation, we used to hear some Tom and Jerry or like, He-Man or Spider-Man, and now it's like something else, but all imaginary creatures. And then they hear these imaginary stories and they think they're real. Like, I want to become like He-Man or Spider-Man or this. What is all that, right? What is the use of hearing? They are addicted to hearing all this nonsensical literature, as Prabhupada says, and hence they are condemned. They are not interested in hearing Achyuta Katha Shuddha, the nectar of Harikatha. Okay? Okay, let's, I think, 2021. And then we'll start with 22 today.
Such materialistic persons are allowed to go to the planet called Pitraloka by the southern course of the sun, but they again come back to this planet and take birth in their own families, beginning again the same fruit of activities from birth to the end of life. Text 21. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down by higher arrangement and again come back to this planet, Just as any person raised to a high position sometimes all of a sudden falls.
Right? So this is similar to the verse in Bhagavad Gita. Shinye punye marta lokam vishanti. Shinye punye. When all their punya is exhausted, they have to come back. Right? So they are promoted to the Pitra Loka, but when the pious activities are over, then they actually fall back again. So the whole point of this chapter, you're seeing how Kapila Dev is making the point. Who is coming back and who is not coming back. Okay. So now we'll go on to text number 21. Actually, Prabhupada in 20, oh sorry, 21 we did, right? 21 in the purport, Prabhupada makes a very nice point. He actually says that how these people, they are elevated to the, Pitraloka or higher planetary system, but they actually fall down, right? And once they fall down, they have to restart their cycle, starting from, they may fall as human beings, but again, they start off with their accumulating piety or impious credits. They start from scratch one way, right? And then they have to go. Now, Prabhupada compares that to the position of a devotee. Let's say someone takes some bhakti and then falls down from that path. What is his position? Is he just like another person who's gone to Pitraloka and come back? No. Which is the verse that states this? First canto, fifth chapter, Narad Muni's instruction to Vyasa. Takta sadhar, त्यक्ता सधर्मं चरणाम्बुजं हरे भजन अपापको तपते ततो यदि तपते he falls down यत्र क्वा वा भद्रम अबुद्ध अमुष्य किम को वर्त आप्त्रो भजताम सधर्मतः. And what is Narad Muni actually saying? That even though he falls down, he may actually take up he may take up devotional service, but even though he actually falls down, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. Right? So when he falls down from his platform of devotional service, he starts off from where he stopped in the previous life. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, that's exactly what we are reading here. Right? Narad Muni is saying, even a person, non-devotee, who's engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. And then further in this text 17 and text 19, 1, 5, 17, 18, and 19, he actually makes this point. In 19, he says, Na vai jano jato kathana kathan chana vrajen mukunda sevaya anvayat anga sansmritim smaran mukundangri upaguhanam punar vihitum ichena na rasa graho janaha. So here he actually makes a point. My dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls, right? He may fall somehow or other. He certainly does not undergo material existence like fruity workers, right? Exactly the point we are reading. And then because a person, why a devotee does not actually go through the same, even though he falls down? And Narad Muni actually explains because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Right? He has that taste, even a little taste of Krishna consciousness. Right? What does Bhakti Vinod Thakur sing? Ek bar naam rase matore. Just once, get a taste. And once you get a taste, even though you fall down, what will happen? You cannot stop thinking of the taste. Oh, I had that taste in Krishna consciousness. I had that taste in Krishna consciousness. And that taste, even though it is small, it will pull us back on the path of bhakti and we'll continue from where we have stopped and we'll attain perfection. Right? So a fall down of a fruitive worker, a sakam karmi, and a fall down of a devotee is actually not the same. Right? And yes, Apichet Sudarcharya Bhagavad Gita also actually makes a point. Even if a person, that is accidentally he actually commits some simple activity, he should still be considered saintly because he is situated in his determination to engage in devotional activities. Okay? Everyone so far okay? So you have the whole overview of the chapter. Vamshi, go.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, when a fruitive, the person falls down, he has to go through the life cycle, or he will come as a human being,
Normally, from demigods, they fall, they come as a human being.
come as human. Okay.
This is actually described that they fall through rains. Like a
Mm.
drop of rain, they will actually fall, and then they will enter into a grain. And when human beings eat that grain, one way that seed will actually entering into them.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, sir.
So where is that? Where do we read that actually? That
Let's search. I think one of the purports in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes some other Vedas or some Purana where it actually talks
I
about.
was thinking it's here, Prabhu, like when Kapila Devi is explaining the birth process, but it's not there.
Prabhuji, we read it in Bhagavad Gita, one of the purports.
Yes, Mataji.
Fall as a grain, and yes,
Yeah.
So those chapters, fourth chapter.
I don't remember, but I clearly remember reading this, that they fall as a rain and then enter into the grain, and then when the grains are eaten, they are.
Yes, Prabhuji, it's in Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, that's good. So maybe someone can find the reference. Maybe you could look at seventh chapter text 19, 20, 21, or in ninth chapter around 20 or 21, because that's where it talks of fall down of these demigods. So maybe those two sections you can just look at the purports. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So now we are, so Lord Kapila has actually made the point again about Sakam Karmis. He is saying how they are condemned by Krishna himself. Now will come how bhakti, devotional service, how through bhakti the goal of all the other paths are also achieved. Right? So the whole they are in the conclusion of Kapil Dev's teaching, the last chapter. So this is the final essence of all the chapters that we have read. So text 22. So 11 was one concluding verse. Now again 22 is again says Tasmat. So another concluding verse. So go ahead. That's good.
Text 22. Tasmatam sarvabhavena bhajasva parameshtinam tadgunashraya bhaktya bhajaniya padambujam.
Hare Krishna, my dear mother.
Oh,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Priyanka Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna. My dear mother, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for his lotus feet are worth worshipping, accepting this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service.
So again, we see the word what? Bhavena, right? And Prabhupada in the purport actually explains that Bhavena means loving ecstasy. Buddha Bhava Samanvita, 10.8, right? 10.8. Buddha Bhava Samanvita, again the Bhav. And Prabhupada says Bhav is just one stage before Prema. So if you consider Prema as the sunshine, then Bhav is one ray of that love of God. And that is Bhav, right? Nectar of Devotion explains chapter number 17 and 18 about this Bhav. And Prabhupada is saying, here Kapil Dev is actually explained, Tasmat Tvam Sarva Bhavena. Actually, you actually engage in devotional service. And what do? Bhajasva Parameshtinam. So this Parameshtinam, Prabhupada explains, who is Parameshtina? Right, we know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this word Parameshti is also used for Brahma. That means the Supreme Person. So, in this material world, the Parameshti may be called as Brahma, right? But the Parameshti of both the material world and the spiritual world together is certainly Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, here it says, Bhajaswa, worship that Parameshti. And what does it say? Tad guna ashraya. Ashrayaya bhaktya. Right? So tad guna, the qualities of the Lord, ashraya. So you take shelter of those qualities. You take ashray of those qualities of the Lord. Right? So Prabhupada actually says, explains this tad guna in two ways. One way he explains tad guna means what? that this worship is beyond the three modes of material nature. What is the proof, Bhagavad Gita? Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samateta brahmabhuyaya kalpate. Right? So the devotional service is about the three modes of material nature. It is actually nirguna. Right? So why is Prabhupada making the point? Because we read in chapter number 29 what? Bhakti performed by a person who is in the mode of passion. Bhakti performed by a person who is in the mode of ignorance. Bhakti performed by a person. Everyone remembers that section? Yes. So here he's actually making the point. What is Kapil Dev's advice? He's not saying do bhakti in these modes. He's saying bhakti which is tadguna, which is actually above these modes, which is free from the modes, which is nirguna bhakti. And that in that mood, we actually take shelter of the Supreme. Ashraya, you do ashraya, right? You take shelter of the Lord. And in devotional service, right? And also, Prabhupada explains Tadguna. So that's one meaning of Tadguna. The other meaning of Tadguna is Guna, means what? Quality. You take shelter of the Lord who has such qualities that Prabhupada in the uh, purport, he actually explains. He says, the Lord has such sublime qualities that once you take shelter of the Lord, you will not take shelter of anyone else. Tadguna. Right? And we have to come to the point of that conviction that the Lord has such qualities. Who else should I surrender unto? Can you think of a verse where it says, who else can I surrender to? The Lord has such glorious qualities.
Invadayalam. That's
Yes. Aho bakiyam
Ahobakiyam Stanakalakut.
Aho bakiyam yam stanakalakutam jighams yapyat apya asadvi lebe gatim dhatri uchitam tato nyam kam va dayalum sharanam vrajema. Everyone knows this verse? Remembers? Starting of third canto, 3 to 33 to 23, right? Where it actually says what? Who's speaking this verse? Starting of third canto, who? Huh?
Uddhavaji.
Right? Uddhav is talking to Vidura, right? So Uddhav is actually remembering these qualities, and then he says, "Oh, who can be more, glorious than the Lord? Who actually?" So he says, how shall I take shelter of anyone more merciful than Krishna? Why? Because Aho Bakiyam Stan Kalakutam. He actually, Baki, this Putana, came with Kalakutam. She smeared her breast with stun was actually smeared with Kalakuta, right? And what did the Lord do? The extreme mercy of the Lord, right? He actually saw that, oh, she's come as my mother. And just seeing, though she came with the intention to kill the Lord did not see her intention. He actually just saw the action and he accepted the least qualification of her and gave her the highest reward. And this, Prabhupada said, is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate share? So, what does the Lord do? Takes the least qualification and gives what? The highest reward. That is a qualification. So even a very little someone does something very insignificant. He opens the door and holds it for a devotee to pass across. And Lord writes it down. Wow, he's done that. Who can imagine the mercy of the Lord? Right? We hear stories like this about like how in the month of Kartik, right? We heard that the mouse, right? The mouse was chewing on the ghee wick, right? And then just because there was a ghee in that, so he was chewing on the ghee wick. And then the ghee wick somehow caught fire and it appeared as if the mouse was actually offering a ghee wick to Damodar in the month of Kartik. And the Lord said, see, the mouse is offering Aarti to me. And the Lord gives him. Like there is no intention there. See, normally we talk of either action and intention, these 2 points. So normally is in bhakti, what is more important, action or intention? The intention, right? The intention we say is more important. Like we have been discussing Ramayan story about how the Hanuman and then the squirrel, right? Right? The intention was, it wasn't like Surya was just doing so much, but the Lord saw the intention, the devotion there, right? But what is the Lord's character? He actually, even if the intention is not there, the action is there. Sometimes in case of extreme mercy, he just sees the action and says, okay, take mercy. Who can be more merciful than the Lord? And hence here Kapil Dev is saying, therefore I advise you, take shelter, sharanam, right? Sarva dharma parityajya mam ekam sharanam. That conclusion of Bhagavad Gita here we are hearing from Kapil Dev. Accept this with all devotion and love, and thus you can be situated in transcendental, right? Transcendental means what? Tadguna, about the gunas, devotional service, right? So Kapil Dev's explanation, his conclusion is very clear. Just surrender unto the Lord. No other personality is worth surrendering unto except the Supreme Personality of God. Okay, so now let's proceed. Next verse.
23. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayadyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahmadarshanam.
We know this verse, right? Okay, translation.
Hare Krishna. Engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment, as well as in self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So this is similar to 1 to 7, right? Right. There also it is first line is same, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janati Asu Vairagam. 3 lines are the same. Jnanam cha yat ahetukam, and here it is Jnanam yat Brahma Darshanam. Only the last 3 words are slightly different, right? So again, when we see repetition in Bhagavatam, we know how important is this point. And what is Kapil Dev trying to establish? He is comparing bhakti, jnana, and yoga, right? And he's actually saying how through bhakti you get the results of all the other processes. So here he's saying just by bhakti yoga, by engaging in devotional service, Vasudeva Bhagavati, unto Vasudeva, what happens? Janati, it actually produces asu very quickly. What? Jnanam and Vairagya. Right? You get knowledge and you get detachment, both of them. And here it says, yet Brahma Darshanam. Brahma Darshanam means one actually realizes Brahman. Right? And why is he concluding with that point? Because he's actually comparing with the process of Jnana. With Jnana Yoga, which he explained before, one attains Brahman. Right? So he's saying that benefit of which you get through Jnana Yoga can also be attained to Bhakti. Right? So not only get knowledge, you get detachment, and you realize Brahman. It's all there, right? Through the other persons, whatever you get, you got that perfection is there. So Prabhupada makes the point: one who's engaged in devotional service, he does not have to attempt separately to practice detachment, right? Humility on one side, but we can say that even in our sadhana, we can experience this. That by taking up bhakti, we actually start losing attachment to so many things that we before had attachment to. Right? I mean, we may attach to so many things, but now it is like we don't have interest for those things. How has that detachment come? By bhakti, right? And also knowledge. It is because we are engaged in chanting, we are doing a sadhana bhakti, hence the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, is actually becomes more and more clear in our consciousness. It is because of bhakti, right? Okay. So that's the first point. The second point Prabhupada actually said, actually when one engages in unflinching devotional service, he gets all the good qualities of the demigods automatically develop in him. And one cannot discover how such good qualities are developing, but it actually happens. Which is this verse? Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunes tatra samasate sura. Sura means demigod. Sarver gune. All the good qualities that may be found in the demigods, they actually appear in the body of a person who's actually engaged in devotion. How that happens? I don't know. Prabhupada says like we cannot understand how it is actually happening, but it happens. And Prabhupada gives the example of Mrigari, the hunter. Imagine Mrigari was getting what? Taste in. He was actually experiencing pleasure seeing the animals suffering in pain. He used to shoot them and just half dead. And when they're struggling in pain and crying, I'm regarding you say, oh, see. And you say, I mean, like, what kind of person would actually relish in seeing that suffering of others? But later, through bhakti, what happened? He couldn't tolerate even giving pain to an ant. And when he wanted to offer obeisances, he had to move the hands. He's like, oh, how can I? How did that good quality come in him? Did he actually do something like, okay, now let me practice, I have to practice this compassion, let me develop this mood of compassion? No. By the instructions of Narad Muni that he followed through bhakti, all these good qualities actually came. Right? So even when we take up devotional service, these good qualities manifest in the body. We cannot understand how they are happening, but they actually appear. Right? Okay, and third point of Brahma Darshanam, right? So this is all. So first point is how by engaging devotional service, both knowledge and detachment come, right? Second point is how all the good qualities of the demigods appear. Third point is that how Brahma Darshanam. So Brahma Darshanam, one meaning I've already explained. What is that? One actually sees Brahman, right? One sees Brahman. But is that the perfection of bhakti? No, we have read in Kapil Dev's teachings also, by engaging devotional service, what happens? We actually see Brahman. And what is that Brahman? We actually see Vasudeva face to face. Right? One can see Krishna in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Every page of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can see Krishna face to face. Right? So Prabhupada says that, right? So he does not need to make separate endeavor to see Brahman or Paramatma, just he sees Krishna face to face, and hence he had realization of Brahman and Paramatma. Right? So hence bhakti is giving the results of. So what did Kapil talk about? He talked of Sankhya Yoga, right? Jnana Yoga, and he talked of Astanga Yoga, where we read about Yam Niyam Asana. And all the benefits obtained can be obtained by bhakti. Hence, mother, just do bhakti. Okay, text 24. Okay, so 24 and 25 is basically saying, what is the proof? What qualities can be seen in devotees that is actually proving the point that knowledge and detachment is developing in them. So 24 and 25 will give the qualities. And when we are reading the qualities, we can see how even in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna talks of Astanga Yoga or Gyan Yoga, he lists his qualities. But we are seeing that qualities will develop, even a bhakta develops those qualities. Okay, so let's do 20.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. What is the second point you said from the Brahma Darshan? One is getting knowledge and detachment, right?
Yeah, so first
And
is
then one
knowledge.
can see the Lord Krishna face to face in each page of Bhagavatam.
Yes.
The
The
I
third
missed
point is developing all good qualities.
good qualities. Okay, thank you.
The good qualities of a demigod develop in the
Okay.
heart of a devotee, right? And it is, as we progress in bhakti, what is happening? Our heart is becoming soft. If our heart is not becoming soft, then we are actually not really practicing bhakti. And with a soft heart, what happens? Naturally, we feel compassion for all. The quality of compassion naturally develops in a devotee. You know. And devotee, he may just see someone suffering, and as he's progressing in bhakti, he sees the suffering and he cannot even tolerate, and he's crying tears. How that story is there, right? Prabhupada, like in Mayapur, when after the big festival, like so many thousands of people were served prasadam, and then there was one pile where the leaf plates were all thrown, and there was, some leftover prasadam thrown. And Prabhupada is seeing from his window, and he sees what? He sees that how the poor children are coming there and they are actually trying to get the prasad, and then also the dogs have come there and the children have to fight with the dogs to actually get some food. And Prabhupada is looking from the window and tears are flowing from his eyes like non-stop, just seeing this sight. And then what did Prabhupada say after that? He said, 8 miles around our Hare Krishna temple, no one should go hungry. So this is the mood. Like, so one may say, like, oh, feeding the poor, isn't that like a charity work? See, when you take up devotional service, naturally those compassion, the quality comes. That is the proof right there. Right?
Prabhu, what's the verse, Prabhu? The Akinchana verse?
Yes, Yasi Bhagavati Bhagavata Kinchana. 5, I think that was 5, 18, 12. 5, 18, 12. Okay, 24.
Text 24. Yadasya chitamartheshu sameshvindriya vrittibihi na vigrinnati vaishamyam priyam apriyam ityuta.
Hare Krishna. 332:24. The exalted devotee's mind becomes equipoised in sensory activities, and he is transcendental to that which is agreeable and not agreeable. Hare Krishna.
So, Priyam, Apriyam, right? Priyam, Apriyam. Then in Bhagavad Gita also we see this, right? Qualities of, okay, let's come to that. So, let me just go through. Yada, when, asya chittam, when the mind of a devotee, right? Mind of a devotee, artheshu, sameshu, indriya vrittivi, by the activities of the senses, he perceives, and how does he perceive everything? Sameshu. Right? Sama means equal. He sees everything with a similar vision. Na Vaishamyam. He does not see difference. Right? 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna tell Arjun? So one should see a stone and a goal with equal vision. Right? 5th chapter, when he talks of Karma Yoga, what does he say? Vidya Vinay Samane Brahmani Kavi Hasya Sunicheva Swapakicha Pandita Samadarshina. Sees everyone with equal vision. So we see in Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, we see 6th chapter, we see like Astanga Yoga chapter, and later on in the let's see, 14th chapter also towards the end, Krishna talks about this equanimity, the equal vision, right? And here he's saying priyam apriyam. So therefore, that which is agreeable and not agreeable, a devotee sees that with an equal vision. He's beyond, he's above all these differences between agreeable and not agreeable. Right? So, so what is the key point? How does a devotee actually see that? Because he sees everything what is actually for the satisfaction of the Lord, right? So his main focus is what is, how can everything be used in service of the Lord? And as soon as that vision is there, he sees everything in connection with the Lord. So a stone is also the energy of the Lord. Gold is also the energy of the Lord. Sometimes maybe a stone is used in building a temple, and hence that can be used in service of the Lord. So that is important. And sometimes gold can be used to make a nice ornament for Radha Golokananda. So that can be used in service. But from the devotee's point of view, there is no vision of sense gratification. He's not saying, oh, what is more value to me? He's saying how everything can be used in Krishna service. Hence that equipoise mind, the sama, right? Sameshu, that quality comes of it. Right? And then further Prabhupada says, in material world, actually there's nothing good. Everything is actually bad or contaminated by material nature. In spiritual world, everything is good. Everything is absolutely good. Why? Because everything, every situation, everything, every relationship, everything is seen as in connection with the Lord, as the mercy of the Lord, right? So therefore he sees everyone with an equal vision. Right? And then further Prabhupada said, actually, as we progress in devotional service, what happens? We actually get the qualities of the Lord himself. Right? That oneness that we talk about is not becoming one with the Lord, but one in quality with the Lord. Satchidananda. Right? And also we can say either Satchidananda, or we see out of 64 qualities, a jiva can have 50 of those qualities. So he develops those qualities, and that way he develops that oneness with the Lord. Now, how does the Lord see everything? For the Lord, material or spiritual, it's all his energies. Similarly, because the Lord has this vision, because we are developing qualities as the Lord, we develop the same vision. Right? So this can be connected to the previous verse where the qualities are developing, and because we are coming closer to the Lord in qualities, we are developing that equal vision. So one is because of the quality. Second is in terms of utility. He sees things and sees, okay, how is this used in Krishna service? Right? Stavara jangama dekhi, na dekhi tara murti, ishta deva spurti. So when he sees everything, what does he see? He does not see moving or non-moving things. What does he see? Ishtadeva Spurti. He sees anything, he sees, oh, now spring season has started and we see beautiful flower. And immediately he sees a beautiful flower. What does he think? How can I offer this to Radha Golokananda? How can this be at the feet of Radha? And he thinks this is Krishna's creation. He remembers the Lord seeing anything. Right? Hence, he has that equal vision. So, that equality, which can be equipoise, mind, and equanimity, attained through other processes, is attained through bhakti. Okay, 25.
25. Satadaivatmanatmanam nisangam samadarshanam heyopadeya rahitam arudham padam ikshate.
Text 25. Because of his transcendental intelligence, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision and sees himself to be uncontaminated by matter. He does not see anything as superior or inferior, and he feels himself elevated to the transcendental platform of being equal in qualities with the Supreme Person.
Right, so I've explained most of the points in the previous verses. So 24, 25 are related, and the same point is being established. So here it says, Saha, that pure devotee, Tada eva Atma. Atmana. Because he has developed the transcendental intelligence, Atmanam Nisangam. He sees himself uncontaminated from matter. He sees that, oh, I have actually nothing to do with this material world. So because there is no personal attachment, right? There's no attachment. Hence, he does not see like, oh, this is agreeable or this is disagreeable. And then Rahitam Heya Upadeya. He's devoid of acceptance and rejection. And hence, he becomes Samadarshana, equipoise. And then last point, Ikshate Arudham Padam. He sees from transcendental position because he's elevated to platform of being equal in qualities with the Lord. So I already explained this. Like one develops qualities similar to that of the Lord, and hence his vision becomes equal. Prabhupada in the purport, he gives this example. He says, just like Arjun. Arjun is a perfect example. Initially, what? He was disagreeable to fight. He was like, oh, why should I fight? So many people will be killed. So he did not want to fight. But later, after getting the instructions from Arjun, after Bhagavad Gita was spoken, then Arjun said, yes, this is agreeable. This is what I'm going to do. Why? Though fighting one way, one may say, like, how can a devotee, if we just made the point that devotee is so compassionate, he cannot see the suffering of others, how can Arjun actually accept fighting now? Because it is Krishna's desire. So his vision is what is best in service of Krishna, and hence he is actually acting in that way. So even like we have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, when he was here, he was talking of Karna and Arjun, and that entire episode where Arjun shot Karna when Karna was off the chariot. Now one may say, for a Kshatriya, that is totally disagreeable. That does not show the strength of a Kshatriya. That is a cover. That is not a Kshatriya. Right? Yudhishthir, he spoke a lie. Ashwatthama, the elephant, he said very softly, is dead. Right? But what was heard? Ashwatthama is dead. No, Yudhishthira, Dharmaraj speaking lie, not agreeable. No. What is the vision of a devotee? What is best for Krishna? So what is Krishna's desire? That is the best. Everything else is, that's the highest consideration. So Arjun's example is here. Yudhishthira Maharaj's example is here. So, right? I mean, one way, even if you see Prabhupada's life story, initially, what was Prabhupada's vision when he wanted to help Bhakti Saraswati Thakur's mission? He said, I'll become a businessman. I'll earn a lot of money. Because when you have money, you can do things, right? So I will have a big business, and his focus was okay, pharmaceutical. He became, big business, and in Prayag, he had this, pharmaceutical. But then what happened? His plan was make a lot of money for Krishna Seva. But then what happened? In Allahabad, he was actually cheated. His factory got burned down, right? Everything was against his plan. But did Prabhupada give up hope? No. He said, okay, whatever happened, that is Krishna's plan. So even that which may be considered bad was actually, Krishna's plan. So it wasn't agreeable or disagreeable. So, okay, Krishna has a better plan. Went to Jhansi, tried there, that did not work out. Okay, Krishna's plan. Right? So that is the vision of a devotee. So good or bad, it does not matter in material terms. Only what matters is what is Krishna's desire. Right? And hence the devotee develops that vision. So hence this concludes the point that how all the qualities one may develop from Jnana Yoga, from Nishkam Karma Yoga, from Astanga Yoga can be obtained from Bhakti. Therefore, engage in Bhakti. Conclusion. Okay. Okay, so now we'll go on to, okay, let's continue. 26 is also talking about this in more detail.
Jnanamatram param brahma paramatmeshvara puman drishyadibhi pritag bhavar bhagavan eka iyate.
Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. But according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha Avatar.
So what is the point here is that the one Lord, he appears differently. Bhagwan is one, but when a Jnani actually does the process, he approaches what? The Brahman aspect of Bhagwan. When Astanga Yogi, he approaches the Paramatma aspect of Bhagwan. Or our favorite section of Bhagavatam, where we read about the Purusha avatars. And so a person who's worshipping in that mood, he'll attain Purusha avatars. But it's the same Lord, right? The same Lord is actually being approached, but just by different process, he's seen differently. But what is our conclusion point? When one actually takes a bhakti, he realizes which form of the absolute truth? Everything. Actually, Bhagavan, but that includes all these other forms. That includes Brahman, that includes Paramatma, that includes Purusha avatars, everything. And hence, what is the highest? Bhakti. Right? So that is the logic of this verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually explains. So we'll go through this. So in Bhakti Yoga, he explains from Kapil Dev's teachings from the third canto, text 25 to 35. Right? He explains what is the result of bhakti, and he says, "Oh mother, devotees through bhakti, they see what? They see my attractive red eyes with a smiling face, and they see my spiritual form, and they speak pleasing words with me." Right? So what is the result of bhakti? You'll see Krishna face to face, you'll speak with Krishna. Okay, first point. Second point. Now, what is the result of jnana? So, in text in Bhagavatam third canto, 27th chapter, text 28. So, one way we are, doing an overview of the chapters of Kapila Dev's teachings. So, 25 talked of bhakti. 27, he's saying, becoming my devotee, understanding the ultimate truth, by my bountiful mercy, he easily attains the highest benefit, his Swarupa called Brahman, which is under my shelter. Right? So here he's pointed out that the result of Jnana is what? Merging into Brahman. So he attains Brahman. Now, Astanga Yoga. So let's see what does a Astanga Yogi attain. So 3:28:35, where he says, when the mind of the perfect yogi becomes devoid of material objects under the shelter of the Lord and detached from all material objects, that mind suddenly gets destroyed just like a flame destroys without the supply of oil. Right? You remember this example? We read that how a flame, when there is no supply of oil, what happens? The flame extinguishes. Right? Similar, Jiva, having destroyed all misconceptions of his body, then sees his Atma without covering. So, Astanga Yogi, he sees the Atma and then realizes Paramatma. So, all three, one way the end goal is different. I mean, the end result obtained is different, right? So, through Jnani, he's seeing Brahman. Through Astanga Yoga, he's seeing Atma, Paramatma. But through Bhakti, he's seeing Krishna face to face, he's talking to Krishna. Right? And then the concluding point is through bhakti, when one sees Krishna face to face, he sees all the aspects of Krishna. Hence, just do bhakti. Okay. So, Prabhupada, if you see the verse, it says Jnana Matram. Through knowledge, what happens? Param Brahma. One attains Brahman. Drishya Adibihi. Right? Drishya Adibihi. By philosophical research, also one attains Brahma. Right? And by other processes like Astanga Yoga, one attains what? Paramatma. Right? Paramatma. Okay. Pritak Bhavai, according to a different process of understanding, Bhagwan Ekaha Iyate. But the Supreme Personality is only one, is perceived alone. Through all the process, who is perceived? It is the Lord alone who is actually perceived. Right? So what is that verse? Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdete. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam avyayam. Advaya. Advaya means non-dual. Means it is all one. What we are talking is just one subject, right? We have explained this few times. It is just, I think later on we'll come to one more example, but we have discussed this. Like when you see any food, someone may just have access to the smell, right? Someone may see, and then someone may actually taste. It's the same object, but people have different experiences with it. Like cooking is done in the other room, you're just smelling it. When person comes inside, he sees the cooking, but maybe it is not offered, so he doesn't have access to the taste. Right? But it's the same object. So similarly here, the same Lord who is actually being approached. And then Prabhupada makes a point. So by executing Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, one has to eventually come to the stage of Bhakti to attain the highest perfection. Right? So even in the yoga ladder, what is it? So you see Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, then Dhyana Yoga, and then highest is what? Bhakti. So even those who are on different steps of the ladder, they have to progress and come to the point of Bhakti. Okay. So that is this part. Now, okay, let's just see any comments or any realizations or questions up to this point. So what do we have covered in 22 to 26? That basically engage in bhakti, how bhakti gives the results of all the other processes. And we proved that, okay, these are qualities that are attained to different processes and they are attained through bhakti also. Any points, comments anyone would like to share?
Krishna Prabhuji, then Prabhuji, next time if I will waste time, I will think that I'm condemned by Krishna because I'm like a stool-eating hog who is wasting time instead of hearing nectar of Harikatha.
That is very strong, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, Bhagavatam is heavy. Bhagavatam does not take any shortcuts. It's not like, oh, okay, you can do this. Bhagavatam is just like direct. Right? And Prabhupada following that mood, direct. Right? No, here and there, straight. Right?
I like the point, like the Lord takes the least qualification and gives the highest benefit. Thank you, sir. Hare Krishna.
The quality of our Lord. Right? Yes, thank you. Any other points? Please think any other points that we discussed. Please.
Prabhuji, just a follow-up to that same point there. Can you explain more on the action and the intention? Like, is the action, is Krishna who is merciful even with action, or are all like, I'm trying to, normally we always hear that it is the intention that is more important, but now we are saying that, action also can be taken into consideration? Is it only by Krishna that action is taken into consideration, or like
Yeah.
just
So,
trying to understand?
right. Yeah. I mean, this is a case of, like Prabhupada is saying, this is a case of extreme mercy where the action was totally unfavorable, right? Like he's trying to kill Krishna, but Krishna accepted. Uh, Here, action was actually to kill Krishna, intention also was to kill Krishna. But that action had a small part where she came in the mood of mother. But that wasn't her action. Her action was actually to kill Krishna, right? That was both intention and action one way, but that action had this small thing, and Krishna just saw that least qualification. Oh, she came as a mother and gave the highest reward, right? Now, in our aspect of bhakti, right, when we engage in some action, right, which is in line with our shastras, in line with our acharyas, with our guru, and even though we may be doing that, let's say, I mean, like someone is leading kirtan, right? Kirtan should be for the pleasure of the Lord. Now, while doing kirtan, let's say, I mean, we all have conditioning, we all have anartha. He's singing, someone is singing and thinking that, oh, see how people are dancing to my kirtan. Now everyone is going to say, such a nice kirtan. And he has that expectation of like, now people are going to praise me, they're going to recognize me, and that's it. And that may come in bhakti in one of those modes that we discussed earlier. So, yes, the action is he is doing something which is in line with the Shastra. Intention is not pure. But because he is doing that action following the Shastra, he's leading Kirtan, that is certain. Krishna sees and says, you're following Guru, you're following Acharya, take certain benefit, but not as much as someone is doing the action with the right intention. Like let's say someone comes to a temple and just says, okay, I'll help clean pots. Now he may have no aspect of devotion. He may does not even accept maybe Krishna as supreme personality of Godhead, but just saying, okay, they need help, I'll help them. Now his action is there. There is no intention, but because he is actually doing seva, which is in line with what the Shastra said, he gets benefit, even though the intention is not there at that moment, right? So action which is one way certified or given by the Shastra, even without intention, will give some sukriti. Some sukriti will be there. But our best thing, if you want to get the highest reward, then we do the action following the Shastra, but at the same time, we want to have the pure intention. But from Krishna's side, he just sees, okay, he's doing in that way. Putana's example is an example of extreme mercy, right? And that's just to show how Krishna is so merciful. But in general, from our side, we actually want to have action and intention. And we also want to see that, also we see that someone is doing action without the intention, still Krishna gives some credits. Does that?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
But Prabhu, I was thinking, at some point in our body becomes in such a way that we can't do any actions. Say like last few days of Mother Krishna Priya leaving, she did not really chant her Gayatri, no chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but she was so focused. So it's like how devotees will come to one point when there is no action from the body, only intention, desire to serve, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a nice point. That way we can say intention, but yes, intention is there to serve, to be with Radha Krishna, but also the aspect, like especially for such devotees, it is like even though they may not be externally like taking their beads and chanting, but internally there is still action.
And because they have been done it throughout the life,
The
it's
life, so it may not be external, but action is there internally because they may have smaranam, they may be remembering internally, they may be chanting, you know. So there is still action also there in those cases. It is not just intention that there may be Like, certainly, for advanced Vaishnavas, they, internally they may be chanting and remembering Krishna and all those things. So that also can be considered action, in that way. So, but your point is, at a particular stage, we may not be able to do so much external activity, and we may have to go more internal in that way.
So that's very similar to what Kurma's situation is right now, bro. Most of like when he's in coma for like 15 days, he did not chant a single round. But
internally, he is 24/7, probably. Chanting.
I was thinking, bro, on this context, how a devotee's qualities are, apparently it might look like it is not so-called good and quote unquote. So, like, I was thinking how when the devotees wanted to attack Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Bengal, and Keshav Maharaj, he said, since I look the same, that it is a cheating propensity, you're trying to cheat. If you just take the instruction, just the pastime, it will come, oh, devotees can cheat. To whom the person we are seeing putting flowers, paying obeisances is not Bhakti Siddhanta. But the principle was that, the importance is Krishna's devotee, the way, as you said, like, let that be Yudhishthir Maharaj or Krishna or Arjun, whatever is the context is not important. Is it pleasing to Krishna is,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that point is there, but yeah, also at the same time, we have to see that devotees also want to set the right example, right? So we want to, yes, what is best for Krishna. Now, someone may say, well, everything in the world should be offered to Krishna. Hence, we'll go to Walmart, let's steal something. Anyway, it is Krishna's property, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be careful that we are setting the best standards where people actually see and say, oh, this is a Vaishnava, right? So because we are a preaching moment, we should actually, set the best standards where, how Prabhupada make the point. A Vaishnava is a perfect gentleman. Perfect gentleman means anyone sees a Vaishnava and like, oh, he's a good man. Even he may have no idea of Krishna consciousness, but just the dealings of that person, his, how he's dealing with the world, everything is like so nice that people appreciate. So that should be our mood. And yes, that should be our mood. That should be the main point that because we are preaching, we want to say, because if we, transcend one way the moral principles, how will people actually appreciate Krishna consciousness? The point is
So
here.
Gurudev actually mentions that, Prabhu, that if suppose I'm sitting on Vyasasana and there is a police come, they're in chasing say Rishikesh Prabhu, and he comes and asks, who is Rishikesh? I'm sitting on Vyasasana. I'm supposed to say the correct, always truth, absolute truth. And I say, I don't know who's Rishikesh. I definitely know who's Rishikesh. He's right sitting next to me. But the principle is to save the devotee.
I mean, in those particular examples, then we have to see what is best. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's see anything. Rohina, right? Oh yeah, okay. Go ahead. Mata, your voice is a little low.
Oh, sorry. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
I was also thinking like the sadhana is the practice which we do, because at any time anything can happen and we won't be able to, like Mataji was mentioning, at the last hours of our life we may not be able to chant or think of Krishna. That's why we do the continuous sadhana throughout our life, so that we will remember Krishna, and also external, internal intention and other things. You mentioned one time, like you're in a meeting and they start talking about some mundane things. You internally you start chanting. Externally you just show as though you are interested in the topic, but internally you are doing something which is not visible to other people, right? That another thing I wanted to mention is how bhakti transforms even a horrible person like Mugrari, who took pleasure in killing animals, making them suffer, and bhakti makes him so compassionate. So that was one thing that was like wonderful about bhakti. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Okay, maybe one more point. Rohina, probably last point.
No, Yeah, Prabhu, I was just thinking about this this point, which Rashri Mataji was asking about, action and intention, and Putna's example. So my understanding is like Krishna, those are the exceptions. We cannot make that as a general rule, as you were saying. And we have to know that that Krishna is Swarat. He is independent. He has his own free will. So he may give mercy to someone, but we cannot formulate things like, okay, this is what I will do, and then, okay, Krishna, then you have to give me mercy. Like he may not. So yeah, that is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Krishna is Swarat, yes. The point here is when we actually do anything following in the footsteps of the devotees, then Krishna, even though he is independent, because he's following a dear devotee, Krishna one way becomes forced to give the mercy, and that's the our hope that yes, what is our qualification to approach Krishna? But Prabhupada, we know, is a pure devotee, very dear to Krishna. We just follow Prabhupada, then Krishna will be like, okay, he's a follower of Prabhupada. Okay, give him all credit.
Yeah. And I think what I understand is our sadhana is just to attract the mercy of the Krishna. It's not like a written formula that, okay, this rounds, this many years I have chanted, and then, okay, Krishna, you have to give me. It's not a business,
Yeah.
So,
I made this example before, but anyway. You remember the example of that, how a person became a millionaire by selling apples? Okay. One person was a millionaire, so someone came and said, how do you become a millionaire? Said, selling apples. I said, how can you become a millionaire selling apples? And then he said, so tell me, what happened? He said, initially I just had one apple. Then,
trade up.
and yeah, then I went, I sold that apple, I got a little profit. Then from the profit, I got 2 apples. Then from that, I sold that. I got 4 apples. I was like, how can you become millionaire? Like 4 apples. And every day I used to go do the same thing, go to the shop, sell, get the apples, sell it, do the exchange. Every day I used to go. I said, like, how do you become millionaire? It's not possible. And then he said, well, I was doing my thing, every day doing my task. And there was a person who used to sit in the store where I used to go and sell. And he actually had millions of dollars. And he was just thinking, who should I give? And just seeing that he's coming every day to sell apples, he gave me millionaire, and hence I became millionaire. So that is our hope. We are what, like just like selling apples, we are chanting and falling asleep and Hare Krishna, okay, done, sir. What is our thing? But just because we are following every day, right? Nitya, every day we are doing a sadhana, we are doing it. I mean, many times we are chanting, no emotion, it's like so dry heart. How can we attract the mercy of Krishna? But because we are following Prabhupada at one more point. Okay, he's doing it. Mercy will just come like that, right? There'll just be okay, take $1 million, and mercy will just come. Right? So that's our hope. Okay, so let's continue. We'll do a few more verses and then we'll take 27.
Text 27. Etavaneva yogena samagre neha yoginaha yujyate bhimato yarto yad asangastu kritsnashaha.
Hare Krishna. The greatest common understanding for all yogis is a complete detachment from matter, which can be achieved by different kinds of yoga. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So here he's actually making the point, a common practice in Astanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti is what? Detachment, right? Detachment. That is a common practice in all the 3 kinds of yogas. Right? So complete detachment from sense objects is is recognized as a desired goal in all the three processes. In Jnana Yoga, is that true? Yes, in Jnana Yoga, also through Sankhya, we are trying to understand how this is all material elements, understanding all the earth, water, fire, air, ether. And what's the whole point? To develop detachment. Astanga Yogi, yes, they also control the senses through Yam, Niyam. Then at the stage of Pratyahar, they are withdrawing from matter. So again, detachment. Now, how does Bhakti Yogi actually attain detachment? Their detachment from material attraction is through attachment to Krishna. So, which is actually more effective? And then Prabhupada explains in the purport that the detachment through Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga involves stopping the interaction. But us being living, conscious, spiritual beings, is it natural for us to stop engagement? No, right? So it is just like from negative, we are coming to zero, but zero is not the state we want to be. We want to be in positive. So bhakti is actually developing the detachment by positive attachment to Krishna, and hence bhakti is the best form of detachment, though detachment is common in all these three, right? What does Bhagavad Gita say? Vishaya vinivartate nirahasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishya nivartate. We get the higher taste. Yes, so we are eating food. A Gyani may say, okay, now I understand. I've been going to fast, eat only roots and fruits, right? Only drink water. He may do all these austerities. Bhakti Yogi, he will take nice food, offer it to Krishna, honor Krishna Prasada, right? So the detachment is already there as a byproduct of bhakti. Okay. 28.
ज्ञानमेकं पराचीनर् इन्द्रियैर्भ्रमनिर्गुणम् अवभातार्थरूपेण भ्रान्त्या शब्दादि धर्मिणा.
Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. Hare Krishna.
So here, how come? So 27 was okay. Again, we continued the theme, but what happened in 28? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he connects the verses and said, Devahuti, she said, okay, I desire to perform bhakti and I have heard, I have understood from you about bhakti. I was curious about Gyan and also curious about the Astanga Yoga. I have heard, I have understood. But in Jnana Yoga, there is one point which I don't have clarity. Can you please explain? And what is that point? And here is actually saying, I'm not understood completely this non-dual knowledge. All right, the doctrine of apparent or illusory transformation, where the phenomenal world is seen as unreal manifestation of the Brahman rather than a real transformation. So Kapil Dev will now speak about Gyan in few verses. He'll talk about Gyan, which is followed by the followers of Vivartavad. What is Vivartavad? Right? Where they actually see this entire material world as false. Everything is false. What is the common saying? Jagan Mithya. Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya. Right? So that is Vivartavad, where they say everything is false. So now Devotee is asking, like, okay, can you explain this non-dual? How does that fit in relationship to bhakti? Right? So that is the verse here. It is actually saying. Okay. So Prabhupada in the purport he actually explains. He says, Jnanam ekam, that one knowledge, in the verse is saying Jnanam ekam, that one knowledge of the Brahman, parachinaha indriya, which is perceived by the senses, right? Parachina means averse, which is when perceived by the senses that are averse to what? Further it says, Indriya Brahma Nirguna, which is averse to the supreme absolute truth, which is Nirguna, Avabhati, that appears, Artha Rupena Bhranti, in form of various objects mistakenly, right? Shabda Adi Dharmani, endowed with sound and so on, right? So, is everyone with me or lost? So what is this verse actually saying? See that one knowledge of Brahman, when it is perceived by someone who is averse to Krishna, when who is not averse to Krishna, how does he see all the objects? We already talked about it, right? He sees everything as energy of Krishna. Now, if someone is averse to Krishna, right, not seeing this as Krishna's energy, what does he say? That one Brahman is seen as different objects, right? What we see, like a phone or a pen or anything. That one Brahman is seeing as different objects, and we are seeing that why? Because that's an error on the side of the jiva. That is the illusion of the jiva, that we are seeing objects differently. This is the philosophy of Vivartavad. And hence, when we stop seeing that distinction, and then what we conclude, everything is Brahman. Right? So that is the philosophy of Vivartavad. So Prabhupada actually explains in the purport where he says that Supreme Absolute Truth is one who is spread everywhere through his impersonal feature. Right? Maya tatam, Bhagavad Gita 9.4 and 9.5. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani na chaham tesho avasthe. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, yet I am not in them. Right? And then text 5 says, Nacha mastani bhutani, pashyame yogam aishwaryam. See this, this is my mystic potency. What is it? Bhuta brahma nacha bhutasta mamatma bhuta bhavana. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities, although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, but I am the source of this entire world. So Prabhupada is giving, this is a Vaishnava understanding, right? Now, further, so sense perception. So through our sense perception, through the oral reception of sound, one can hear a drum. Through visual perception, one can see a beautiful woman. Through the taste, one can taste delicious milk. So, through our senses, we are perceiving different things differently. Right? Therefore, the sensory knowledge is divided in different categories, although everything is actually the manifestation of the energy of the Lord. So Mayavadis say diversity to be false. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. Vaishnavas, we accept different manifestation as non-different from Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are a display of the different energies of the Lord. Uh, Okay. So further Prabhupada makes a point that the form of Krishna, which is actually Satchidananda Vigraha, that cannot be understood through imperfect sense perception or through speculative arguments. Right? We cannot understand the form of the Lord through this imperfect sense perception or speculative arguments, and therefore we have to actually hear Shastra Yonitvat. We have to acquire pure knowledge from the Shastras. Right? Okay. See. Okay, let's just do one more verse and then I'll try to again, go through this 28, 29. Let's just do one more.
Yata mahanaham rupas vritpancha vidasvarat ekadasha vidastasya vapur andam jagad yataha. Vijay Radhika Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Translation. From the total energy, the Mahatattva, I have manifested the false ego. The three modes of material nature, the five material elements, the individual consciousness, the 11 senses, and the material body. Similarly, the entire universe has come from the Supreme Personality of God.
Okay, so now here is saying Yatha as Mahan, so Mahatattva, right? Aham Rupa, that means the false ego. Trivid, the three modes of material nature. Panchavida, the five material elements. Swarat, the individual consciousness. Ekadasha Vidaha, the 11 senses. Tasya, the living entity. Vapuhu, the material body. Right? This is that our favorite illustration, right? Mahatattva and all those things, the transformations from false ego, everything. But what is the conclusion of all this? Where is everything coming from? Through the glance of Vishnu, right? So here Kapil Dev is actually making the point. Yes, through Gyan Yoga, we may come to the conclusion that everything is false. But here we are seeing, and here Kapil Dev is actually making the point that all these Andam Jagat Yataha, all these are components of the Anda, that egg universe, right? And where does that all this come from? They all come from the Supreme Personality of God. So so here is the final point. When we are seeing all these different manifestations, if we understand all this is coming from what? Transformation of false ego from the Mahat Tattva, from the glance of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So who is the cause of everything? Whose energy is all this? The Lord. Now everything we see, any object, is the energy of the Lord. Now can that energy of the Lord be false? No, it cannot be false. Right? It cannot be false. It is the energy of the Lord. The Lord is eternal, right? This energy is also eternal, but it is manifested in one form and then it loses the manifestation, but it cannot be false. So when the Mayavadis say Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, and they say we are seeing variety just because of a false vision, that is not the Vaishnava understanding. The Vaishnava understanding is, yes, we are seeing different things, but all that is the energy of the Lord. So this final point is actually being clarified by Kapila Dev because this is an important point. Because in the previous years, I come to a point of bhakti and I am understanding that how bhakti is the best. But this point, Kapil Dev feels so important to again establish this point that he's explaining the difference between Vivartavad and the conclusion of the Bhagavata. Okay. Okay. So and these two verses were again the technical aspect. But let's see, did we follow? How many of you followed? And if you have followed, can you actually summarize the last two verses?
Not so clear about okay. How is it that Mayavadis see? Okay, if one is averse to Krishna, he will not see Brahman as Krishna's energy, but he'll see everything as false. How does I didn't understand how does he see everything as false? Like,
Yeah, because see, so now through Sankhya, what do we understand? Okay, all this is actually different manifestations coming from the false ego, which is on Mahat Tattva in false ego, Ahankar, Mahat Tattva, and then we have all the elements, right? Everything. Now, even the senses, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, right? We are experiencing different things. But what are we experiencing? Okay, we are experiencing some transformation of the elements that has actually happened. Now, our existence here in this material world, like through Jnana Yoga, we come to the point that we have nothing to do with all these elements. All right. So, hence, all this, why are we perceiving all this? I am spirit soul. I have nothing to do with all this. Why am I perceiving? Oh, it is my Maya. My Maya that I'm all seeing all these things differently. And they take it to the next step. Therefore, all this is Maya. And hence, Jagat Mithya.
so I'm separate from all of this, and
See, I am separate from all of this. So that I'm experiencing a laddu as sweet. Is that anything to do with my spirit soul?
No.
No. So that is what? Maya. I'm hearing something, good music, bad music. Does that have anything to do with the spirit soul? I'm not talking of spiritual music. Just no. So all this is Maya. So the Mayavadis, they take it flow this way. So if I end all the varieties, will I have all this attraction? No. So hence all these varieties is Maya. Therefore, I want to finish all this. Therefore, varieties is illusion. Brahma is Satya, but all this is illusion. right? And then in next verse, in 29, what we read, here is actually saying, I manifested all this. So he's clarifying that this is all my manifestation. So how can it be false? So Kapil Dev feels like at the conclusion, yes, bhakti is established as higher, but he needs to establish this point that don't get bewildered by the point that all this is Maya. So he's one way defeating that Mayavadis don't go down because it's easy to go down that route if you forget the connection. So hence he's clarifying that point.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Okay, so now it's again back to the easy section. Now you all can breathe. Okay. Okay, let's do now come back to the easy section. Text 30.
एतद्वैषटया भक्त्या योगाभ्यासेन नित्यशः समाहितात्मनिसङ्गो विरक्त्या परिपश्यति. Arundhati Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. This perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who is already engaged in devotional service with faith, steadiness, and full detachment, and who is always absorbed in thought of the Supreme. He is aloof from material association. Hare Krishna.
So how do you not fall into the path of this Mayavadi understanding that Jagat is mithya? And here is actually giving the answer. He's saying, Etat. So why certainly? Shraddhaya bhaktya. Unless there is a concept of devotion, one can get bewildered and consider Jagat as mithya. Right? And hence, to actually establish the point, the whole section is what? To establish the glories of devotional service. And hence, to establish that, how will one understand that everything is energy of the Lord? You have to engage in Shraddhaya Bhaktya. Or else there's the danger that you will actually consider that everything is mithya. Right? So yoga abhyasena, by practice of yoga, nityasaha and samahitaha. That also means samadhi. So if your mind is always fixed in devotional service with faith, with this practice of bhakti yoga, then nisanga, aloof from material association by detachment, pari pashyati. You will understand things in the right way. You will not get bewildered and say this is mithya. You will understand everything in the right understanding. Everyone is following the flow, or are you all confused?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I mean, like the Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, it says like absolute is true, but creation is false, right? And in the second 29th verse, it said every creation is coming from the Lord's this one. So can we understand it like a bhakta always sees every creation and thinks, oh, it is the creation of the Lord. Look at this beautiful flower. Krishna's created this beautiful flower. But whereas Mayavadi thinks, oh, it's all Maya. Is that how we understand?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. So Mayavadi will see, even a Jnani, he may see a nice, attractive flower and say, what? Oh, I shouldn't get attracted. I shouldn't see the beauty. Otherwise, that's Maya. You know, I shouldn't eat something which is very tasty because that's Maya. Right? And hence there is that inclination of a jnani to go along the path and saying no, 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 naiti, 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 and come to the point that okay, everything is Maya, everything is Maya. This whole Jagat is Maya. And hence to protect us from that fall down, Kapil Dev is concluding and saying, no, no, everything is Krishna. Again, don't consider everything. Like, yes, we appreciate everything, but you see that as Krishna's energy. So you made the point very nicely. Yes? So we see a flower and immediately want to offer it to Krishna. We say, Krishna's creation, offer it to him. We don't say, okay, don't enjoy nice sunset, don't, so.
Even the air hostess beauty is enjoyed, saying it's Krishna's creation, right?
That example
Yeah.
Prabhupada actually says. I mean, that's funny, right? How Prabhupada asked the brahmachari, isn't that air hostess beautiful? What will a brahmachari say? He'll be like, he says yes, he'll be like, looking at the brahmachari, why are you looking at the air hostess? Then, so the point is you can never defeat Prabhupada, and he just kept quiet. Whatever I say, I'm wrong. So then Prabhupada says, so if if she's beautiful, imagine the creator, how beautiful he is. So that is the vision of a devotee, right? And Prabhupada can see this, and so we still have to have some level of discrimination, and we cannot just, yeah. Okay.
Sure, Prabhuji. So then, what do the Mayavadis think? Like, where are the flowers and all these natural things are coming from? If they cannot connect it to Supreme Personality of Godhead.
It's
So,
just Maya, right? It's illusion.
illusion.
Like how, see, you're driving down the road, hot day. You see water on the road?
Mirage.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
Mirage.
Illusion.
Yeah, illusion. Yes. Yeah.
Similarly, everything you're seeing is illusion. You're seeing a nice flower, illusion. Don't enjoy a nice flower. That's illusion. Because it's not Brahman. Right? Because Brahman is manifested, Brahman is seeing as different objects only because of our senses. If the senses are not there, then you'll see everything as Brahman. So what is the fault? That discrimination. Hence, stop the discrimination. Everything is Brahman. So hence it's all mithya.
But don't you think there should be somebody who is creating all these seeds and like that's the...
That is Vaishnava understanding. See, that's the beauty of what Prabhupada has given, that when we hear this, it's hard for us to even conceive how they can think in that way. That is because we got the mercy. Those who don't have mercy, they are following this philosophical speculation. At least we can see how they can fall into this trap. Right? Just based on this, can you see how they can fall into this trap by saying neti, 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 and say like, okay, everything is mithya. Right?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I want to add to what Arundhati Mataji. For a person who's like you Mataji, always trained in bhakti, it is difficult for you to imagine even how can one think that it is Maya.
Like once we are, because we are trained in that way, then wherever we hear Prabhupada's purport, certainly is defeating impersonalism, establishing the glory of Krishna. Because we are reading from the pure devotee, we are getting the understanding. It's hard for us to understand that how, they can understand this way. And hence we feel that, what Mayavadi, what philosophy is that? But the Jnani will say, oh, this is the highest understanding, right? Because they have not received the mercy. So hence here is making the point, unless one actually does Shraddhaya Bhaktya, devotion. And where will one get devotion? From a devotee. Unless one has that contact, it is easy for him, from philosophical speculation, to go towards this Jagan Mithya philosophy. Okay, let's just do one more, 31, and then we'll stop.
Prabhu, when we were reading that, I think, Ashtanga Yoga chapter, at that time, there was this mention that how the progression of, when it comes to Samadhi, he sees the Lord in his heart and he gets those, bodily, and then he realizes, so, this is Maya. But there is second class of persons who realize, I want to serve him.
Yeah, that's a
Then
good
comes
example. That they experience these emotions and feel like, this is Maya. I should not experience, right? So that's the same. See, that's why that philosophical, that understanding, mental speculation is actually so dangerous, because one can go to that point that even experience bhakti and say like reject bhakti, right? So they say, they make the joke that the jnanis are so detached that they detach even from devotional service, right? They detach even from devotional service.
Prabhu, their main problem is senses, right? Anything that something that is perceived to senses is problem.
Exactly, that's what the verse is saying, right? Yeah.
Right. Sense control. I mean.
Yeah, like you're enjoying something by seeing, that's Maya. Variety is Maya. That's their understanding.
So once we if you don't really perceive anything through senses, I mean, how are you?
See, the point is like I see a flower and then I'm attracted to a flower. Well, now what is it? The attraction is actually Maya. Right? And why is the attraction? Because of variety. If I end the variety, then no attraction, no Maya. So hence everything here is false.
So they just come to Janati as only Vairagyam, not Jnanam. because they only get detached, but the gyan of proper utilization is missing.
Gyan of how the source of everything is Krishna is missing.
Right.
Okay. Last verse, 31. Let's take a break after that. So this is concluding iti.
Ityetat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahmadarshanam yenanubudhyate tattvam prakrite purushasya cha. Divya.
My dear mother, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth, by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationship.
So, Gurvi, my dear respectful mother, Katitam, I have already described Jnanam, Brahma Darshanam. That knowledge which reveals the absolute truth, by which Tattvam, truth, Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit, and their relationship. What is this? Sankhya Yoga. So he's saying that how, if you follow my Sankhya Yoga, what I've explained, you will not fall in this trap of thinking that Jagat is Mithya. I've already explained this to you. So you follow that path. Don't just go through mental speculation that where you will fall into that trap. So just follow this path and you will actually come to the right understanding. Okay. So that brings us 31. And then the last few, okay, there are two more sections, 30, 36. And we conclude. This chapter means we are concluding the entire Kapil Dev's teachings. Okay. Any final comments? We'll take a break. Everyone followed the last section. Like the conclusion part is okay. Everyone can accept. Bhakti gives the result of everything else, right? That's clear. That is like, okay. Bhagavad Gita also makes the point. We read again and again. That's easy. Like Jnanam, detachment, Vairagya, knowledge. That all comes through Bhakti. That's all we have studied. But this last part, why Kapil Dev in his conclusion is actually, that we should appreciate, and how it is so important not to fall in that trap of Jagat Mithya. So hence he says, hence do bhakti. Don't fall in the trap of Jagat Mithya. Do bhakti. With bhakti, you will get the correct understanding. So that also is concluded with the bhakti as the best. Okay, everyone? Yes.
Hare Krishna, one request. If you go to the temple, today's garlands, me and Champaklata was making yesterday, and the flowers are most amazing. Like, I mean, we were talking about, how beautiful these flowers and how great, like the different. Maybe I cannot even express how we were wondering about this flowers yesterday, and just wanted to tell you that today's garlands are so amazing. When Champaklata Mataji brought the flowers.
Amazing, right? So how a bhakta can appreciate everything. And he sees appreciation, oh, let's make a nice garland for Krishna. But imagine Jnani seeing the flower and saying like, don't get attracted. That is Maya, Prabhu. That is Maya. So yes, we are happy we are on Patha Bhakti. Okay, let's take a quick break, 5 minutes, and come back. Thank you all so much. Bhagavatam ki jai.
time. Hare Krishna. We chant. One more time. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone. So let's continue. So it's like 3 more verses on this theme, and we are almost come to the end of the teachings. Okay, so let's do text number 32. Right.
Text 32. Jnana-yogascha mannishto nirgunyo bhakti-lakshanaha dvayor-apyeka evarto bhagavat-shabda-lakshanaha.
Hare Krishna. Text 32. Philosophical research culminates in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains a stage of devotional service. Either by devotional service directly or by philosophical research, one has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. So so previously what we have discussed is where Kapil Dev has actually established that how by bhakti, please everyone hear the difference. How by bhakti you can get the results of the of the other processes, right? So this point was clear. And then also he's made the point how bhakti can protect us from following into a trap which may be obtained through jnana. That is established. Now in this section, he's actually saying how the other processes also, like jnana yoga, astanga yoga, can only be successful when they have a tinge of devotion. Right? So all the other process cannot even be successful without bhakti. Right? There has to be some tinge of bhakti for them to be successful. And so that's one point. And the other point here is also established that how all these processes they lead one to bhakti. Where is Bhagavad Gita making this point? Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. After many lifetimes, a jnana yogi comes to what? The point of bhakti. So that is what is established. So 2 more points are established. The one, how different processes, they finally come to the point of bhakti to realize the Supreme Personality of God. So here it says Jnana and Yoga. Gyan Yoga, philosophical research. So either we consider, so one way of understanding Gyan Yoga is because even in yoga there is Gyan, so hence the focus is on Gyan, right? So, or you can say one is Gyan Yoga and one is Astanga Yoga. Right? So either way. So Gyan Yoga, right? Gyan Yoga, Man Nishta, when it is directed towards me, right? One becomes free from the modes of material nature by performing Gyan, and he attains what? He comes to a stage of Nairgunya Bhakti Lakshana. He comes to a stage of devotional service, right? So even if someone is doing Gyan Yoga, and it could, eventually he has to come to a point of realizing Brahman, he has to come to a point of, realizing Bhagavan by coming to a point of Bhakti Yoga. And then further he said, Dvayo api, moreover, both eka artha, certainly have one purpose. So what is the purpose of Sankhya Yoga? What's the purpose of Sankhya Yoga?
After understanding everything analytically, come to the conclusion that Krishna is Bhagwan and the easiest process is bhakti.
Right. So if you see Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, text number 4, right? 5.4. What does Krishna say? Sankhya yogo pratak bala pravadanti na pandita ekam apya astita samya ubhayor vindate phalam. Right? Only the ignorant, they speak of devotional service as being different from Sankhya yoga. Why? Because those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Right? So Krishna clearly made the distinction in 5.4 Bhagavad Gita that only the ignorant, they say these two paths are different. Because finally everyone has to come and attain Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So only the ignorant find the difference between them. And same point is actually established. And also Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 12.3 and 4. Yatva aksharam anirdesham avyaktam paripasate sarvatra gam achintam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Right? So those who worship the unmanifested, the immovable, the all-pervading, right, impersonal conception of the absolute, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Right? So 12.3 and 4, Krishna is saying, yes, they worship the impersonal Brahman, but at last they achieve me. So finally, the goal is what? Krishna. And 5.4 is saying, oh, those who see Sankhya and devotional service are different, they are ignorant because finally you have to achieve me. Right? So all these other paths, also the goal is finally to achieve Krishna. They will bring one to the point of bhakti. Right? Bhavanam Janmanamante, etc. Everyone understands the difference between previous section and this section. What point is being established? Would someone like to summarize? What was the point in the previous section and how is that different from in this section?
So one of the previous sections' point was that by bhakti one gets the results of the other processes. And then the last section was how bhakti helps us not fall into the trap of Mayavad conception. And then this section is saying that in order to be successful in the other processes, you need to do bhakti, and that the goal is the same for jnana and bhakti.
So eventually everyone has to come to Bhagavan. So these are all stepping stones to come to bhakti. Right? Jnana and Astanga Yoga are just limbs in the yoga ladder, finally to bring one to the point of bhakti. Okay, 33.
Yatendriyai pritag dvarar arto bahu gunashrayah eko naneyate tadvad bhagavan shastravartmabihi.
A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunctions, he appears to be different.
So yatha, indriya. So as these senses, they perceive pritak dvara artha bahuguna. So an object has different qualities, right? An object will have smell, it will have taste, it will have form, right? Object has different property. So yatha, with our senses, we perceive as object with many different qualities, right? What is the example given? Prabhupada actually gives example with even Vishwanath Chakri Thakur actually gives, is that of milk, right? So milk, when you see, what do you see? White liquid. Right? Now milk, when you actually taste the milk, how does that appear? Sweet. Right? That's what Vishwanath Chakri Thakur says. So you taste the milk is sweet. You see the milk, it's perceived as white. You touch the milk, it's very cooling, right? You smell the milk, it's very fragrant. You hear about the milk and you say, oh yeah, I heard milk, right? The word milk, it went into my ear. It's the same object, but different senses are actually hearing that object differently. Okay. Now, everyone's still okay, right? How one object can be perceived differently by different senses. How does the mind perceive milk? Which one of these? The taste, the smell, the sight, the sound. How does the mind perceive milk?
When we hear about it,
No, how does the mind experience? Like when you think about milk,
It's a
The
combination
feeling,
of
bro.
everything.
it is all of these,
All of this.
Yeah.
right? So because the mind is the chief of all senses, the mind is experiencing all of these. Hence, okay, so this is the example, right? So all senses are perceiving objects differently, but mind is perceiving all of them together. Similarly, because the mind is the king of all the senses. Similarly, that one Lord is perceived differently through different processes. Through Jnana, he is perceived as Brahman. Through Astanga, he is perceived as Paramatma. But as the mind is the chief of all the senses, Bhakti is the chief of all the processes. And through Bhakti, everything gets perceived. You experience Bhagwan, you experience Brahman, you experience Paramatma, you experience Purusha Avatar, everything, right? So such a nice verse, like how you can compare different objects, how mind is the king, similar Bhakti is the king of all the process, because everything, all these realizations are actually a thing. So he says, Yatha, as the senses are perceiving object differently, Tadvat. Similarly, Bhagwan Shastra Vartamahi. The Supreme Personality is one, but is realized differently according to different scriptural injunctions. And this has been explained so nicely by Prabhupada and our acharyas. Okay. Right. And another example Prabhupada gives is like a hill. He says hill appears cloudy from a distance. From a distance, you see a hill, you'll just see clouds. But as you come closer, then you see, oh, that's a hill. Then even closer, you see that there is variety. So when you're on top of the hill, you're seeing the hill, you're seeing the variety, and you're seeing the clouds. You're seeing everything. Right? So another example. Okay. Right. Prabhupada also quotes 1855, right? Bhaktya mam abjanati, that only through bhakti the Lord can be Lord. There's no one can understand the absolute truth. Okay. So Prabhupada makes a nice point, this I'll mention, right? So what does Krishna say? So bhaktya mam abjanati. I can be understood only by devotional service. But how can the infinitesimal jiva understand the infinite? How can someone who's just a spark understand the whole? Is it possible? But we just made the point Bhaktya Maam Abhijanati, right? Everyone understands the question?
Rosie, just thinking, bro, like the Lord within the heart reveals when he pleases with the devotee.
So
Through
point is, yes, Prabhu, that's right. So point is, yes, we are infinitesimal. How can we understand infinite? Like how can a drop understand the ocean? It's not possible. But if the Lord reveals himself to the jiva, to the extent that the Lord reveals himself, to that extent the jiva can appreciate the Lord. And when will the Lord reveal himself? When we actually engage in devotional service. And hence, bhakti is the best of all because the Lord is choosing to reveal the infinite, is revealing himself to the finite, and he can reveal everything. All the Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, all the Purusha avatars, everything he can reveal, but only when the God reveals. So, hence, bhakti is the best process. Okay. Okay, 34, 36.
34 to 36. Kriyaya kratubhirdhanaistapas atmendriya jayenapi sanyasena cha karmanam yogena vividhangena bhakti yogena chaivahi dharmeno bhayachainena ya pravritti nivrittiman atmatatvavabodhena vairagyena dridena cha iyate bhagavan ebhi saguna nirguna swadrik. Think of Pratana Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, by performing austerities, by studying various literatures, by conducting philosophical research, by controlling the mind, by subduing the senses, by accepting the renounced order of life, and by performing the prescribed duties of one's social order, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, and by exhibiting the process of devotional service containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self realization, and by developing a strong sense of detachment. One who is expert in understanding the different processes of self realization realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So here, this is like one way. All the different processes which are explained throughout the Shastra is giving a list of those processes. Like Kriyaya, fruitive activity, Kratubihi, sacrifice, Dane, doing charity. All these are recommended in different aspects of Shastra. Tapaha, austerity, Swadhyay, studying the Shastra, Marshanahi, philosophical research, Atma Indraya Jayena, controlling the mind and senses, Sannyasena, renunciation, Karmanam, prescribed duties. And we have heard all this, right? All these have been recommended in different processes of the Shastra. Karmanam, prescribed duties of social order, like Varna and Ashrama. Then Vividha Yogena, different divisions of yoga practice, like Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam. Bhakti Yogena, devotional service. Dharmena, prescribed duties. Ubhaya Chinnena, having the symptoms of pravritti and nivritti. So how in the Shastra they have pravritti marg, which is a marg of sense gratification, and nivritti marg, the path of renunciation. Atma Tattva, science of self-realization. Avoda Vairagya Hridena, by strong detachment. Iyate Bhagavan, right? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is perceived. Saguna, in material world. Nirguna, beyond material world. Swadrik, one who sees constitutional position. So what is this saying? This verse is actually saying that all these processes are there, right? Different parts of the Shastra actually give these different processes, but the word eva is used. Eva means what? That all these can be successful only when they have devotion in them. Otherwise, all these processes are actually Shrama eva hi kevalam, right? So all these processes are finally dependent on bhakti, right? So all these processes are to be executed in bhakti yoga. Just to give an example, when you talk of tapaha, you do tapaha in devotion, you do austerities in the path of bhakti. Then, let's say swadhyaya, studying scriptures, you do it in the aspect of bhakti, like we're doing now. Right? Philosophical research. Yes, we are doing that in the aspect of bhakti. And Prabhupada and Purport also divides that how like sacrifice and charity is meant more for grahasthas. Tapaha, Swadhyay, Marshanahi is meant for Vanaprasthas. Then Sannyasi, it is Sannyasena and Atma Indriya Jayena, controlling the mind and senses. Then Karmanam, that is Grahastha, prescribing deities of social order. Right? So in that way, he divides these different processes for Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Right? He divides them, but then finally he comes to the point that each one of them, like prescribed duty, they must be performed for the sake of the Lord. Why does Bhagavad Gita say, whatever we do, we should do it for the pleasure of the Lord?
Yad karoshi, yad dashnamshi, yad dadasi.
Yat tapasvi konteya tat kurusva madarpanam. So even in that verse, so many different processes are there. Yat karosi, yat asnasi, right? Juhosi, uh, um, tapasi, right? All these processes, you should do it as an offering to Krishna. And also 529, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, right? Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. You do tapa, who is the Bhokta? The Lord. Right? Okay. And Prabhupada says, so how Bhakti Yoga? It contains two symptoms. There's attachment for the Lord and detachment from material affinities. Like he gives the example, it is just like eating. When you eat food, what happens? You get satisfaction, the body is nourished, at the same time our hunger goes away. Right? This is the verse from the 11th canto. Now, similarly, when we take up devotional service, what happens? We get the higher happiness, right? The satisfaction. Then our body is nourished, we get deeper realizations. And then third, our hunger goes away. That means our detachment from material. So how bhakti is actually perfect. Because all the detachment which was common to the other process, we are already getting in bhakti. At the same time, we are getting attachment to Krishna. Okay, everyone? Okay, so now the last section. So that completes how very nicely he has this entire chapter. He established that bhakti is the conclusion, right? I mean, this is all discussions going back and forth, just to the point. Engage in bhakti, my mother. Actually, mother, you're already doing bhakti. So don't get deviated. You're considering worshiping me as your son. So you're already in bhakti, right? But for others, for all of us, don't engage in other processes. Just focus on bhakti. That's it. That's it. Right? Okay. Now, last section is basically simple section, basically saying who is qualified to receive this knowledge, right? Who is qualified to study this knowledge from chapter number 325, right? Where the knowledge started, to 332. Right? So 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. 8 chapters of uh, Kapil Dev's teachings. Right? So who's qualified to receive this knowledge? So can you think without looking at the verses, who's qualified and who's disqualified?
One who is submissive and open-minded.
Okay, submissive. Okay. Who's disqualified? Bhagavatam starts with the point. Who's qualified to get this knowledge?
Envious.
And is envious, is disqualified. Right? So let's see what else does Kapila Dev actually say. 37.
Pravocham bhakti yogasya sarupam te chaturvidham kalasya chavyaktagatir yontar dhavati jantushu.
Hare Krishna. My dear mother, I have explained to you the process of devotional service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I have explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them.
So if you go back to 29th chapter, Devotee had asked the question about 1, please explain in detail the path of bhakti. Kapila said, I have answered that question. Second, you asked me nature of time. I have explained that. Third, you asked me about samsmriti, that cycle of birth and death, how the living entity goes. I have explained that. So I have explained all 3. Right? You asked me these 3 questions. The second question 4, 5, 6, and 7, I have answered all these 3 questions. So yeah. And also here he makes the point, Bhakti Yoga said Chatuvidam. What is Chatuvu? 4. What is Bhakti Yoga Chatuvidam? We just read it, right? What are 4 divisions of Bhakti?
Jnana, then
But in Bhakti,
The bhakti and the mode of passion, bhakti mode of ignorance.
he's saying like, okay, you asked me about bhakti. I have explained bhakti by a person in mode of goodness, bhakti by a person in mode of passion, bhakti by a person in mode of ignorance, and bhakti that is nirguna. So these 4 aspects of bhakti I have explained, right? So that's what in 29th chapter, right? So Chatuvidam. So these 4 I have explained. And Kalasya, how I explained how eternal time is chasing the living entities. Antardhavati Jantusu, right? Ya avyakta gate, the moment of which is imperceptible. I've explained time, I've explained the movement of living entities, I've explained the 4 aspects of bhakti. Right? And okay, so I have explained all this. Okay, 38.
Jivasya samsmitir bhavir avidya karma nirmitaha yasvanga pravishan atma naveda gatim atmanaha.
Hare Krishna. There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his moments will end.
Okay. Okay, let's read one more, then I can connect both the verses because otherwise. 39.
Text 39. Naitad kalayo yopadeshan navinitaya karhichit
न स्तब्धाय न भिन्नाय नैव धर्मध्वजाय च.
Actually,
See,
sorry, Madhuri, I'll just explain 38 because then 39 onwards qualities are there. But let me just finish 38 and then we'll go back to 39. Okay. So 38, what does it say? Jivasya sansmritir bhave. The Jivasya, the living entity, sansmriti. That's the word, right? The cycle of birth and death. So bhave. When a living entity goes through these many varieties of material existence, many varieties of different bodies, then based on what? Karma, avidya. Based on his work performed out of ignorance. Right? He forgets his relationship with Krishna and he goes through all these different bodies. Anga, my dear mother. And then further he actually makes the point. Pravisha Atma na Veda. So as long as he is forgetful of me, he will not be able to understand this entire movement. Right? Now, let's say someone you know, is not a devotee, like an atheist or just a materialistic person. You go to him and say, okay, here Bhagavatam, read from chapter number 25 all the way to 32. Or forget 25, just the last 30, 31, 32, the cycle of life, birth, death, and so on. And you'll say, okay, read it, and then you'll understand how this birth death is actually a problem, and then hence you should take a bhakti. Now, will he be able to understand? If he's just a materialistic, and by mercy of Prabhupada, Bhagavatam, certainly that's why we're distributing Bhagavatam. But the point is said, as long as this does not bring up his remembrance of Krishna, he will not be able to understand. He'll read all this and still continue his life as it is. It's only when one connects with Krishna, then he can understand how the living entity is going through, how out of avidya he's doing all these different kinds of work. And if anyone enters into forgetfulness, he'll be unable to understand all this. And hence, what is the point? One has to remember Krishna, one has to connect with Krishna. That means, unless one takes up devotional service, he may read all this, still not actually really understand the importance of all this. Right? He needs to come in contact with the bhakta. So when we're distributing Bhagavatam, they're coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada's purpose. So hence they're coming in contact with a devotee. But as long as they are not coming in contact with a devotee, a materialistic may take this and say, okay, I'm going to study the birth of a living entity in the womb. And he may study all this just from a materialistic point, but still he will not be able to understand the whole point that Kapila Muni is actually explaining. So hence Prabhupada says, once one enters into this material existence, it's very difficult to get out. Right? The Sansmriti is just like a cycle. Go again and again and again and again. But who can break this cycle? Unless the Lord himself comes or sends a bona fide representative, the cycle cannot be broken. Right? What does Prahlad Maharaj say? By our own endeavor also, you cannot break it. It's only when what? What does Prahlad Maharaj say? Only when what can we break the cycle?
When we get the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet.
Very specific.
Devotees association.
Association.
Pure devotees association.
Okay, very specific. What does Prahlad Maharaj say? Unless we receive the dust of the lotus feet of Vaishnava, unless we are bathed by that dust, we cannot get out of this. Right? We need that dust of the lotus feet of Vaishnava. We need that mercy of a Vaishnava. Without that, it's not possible. Right? So same point here Prabhupada says, either the Lord himself comes or sends his bona fide representative. Unless that mercy is obtained, we cannot understand. And then the cycle will go on and on and on. Okay? Okay. Now,
Prabhuji, I have a quick question.
yes, ma'am.
So it is strange that because for some reason, I was thinking about this point where if a human being is dies a torturous death or dies in not very pleasant conditions, that soul then goes into another body in that same condition, right? That tortured condition. And that cycle when will it stop? When will that poor soul get out of that torturous condition? And I don't know why I was thinking about it, but now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking back that that soul is going to get liberated only when they come in association somehow. By Krishna's mercy, they have to come in association of a devotee. That, I mean, it's almost like I got my answer to the question that I was pondering. So I feel like there's a huge connection here. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj clear said, Matenna Krishna Paratasava. Either by our own endeavor or people telling us we cannot actually get out of the cycle. Only when you get the mercy of the lotus feet. I mean, that's not the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. That means basically we get mercy. And you see how Prabhupada's mercy is so powerful. Like even people who were engaged in sinful activities, Prabhupada just came and he said, oh, this person should get the mercy of Krishna. And I mean, otherwise, what does Bhagavad Gita say? What is that, 728? Famous verse. Who knows 728?
Bahunab Janmanam.
No, 728, where it actually says, unless one actually does pious activities for so many lifetimes, he cannot actually come to Dhrida Bhakti. What's that? That was. Anyway, you can look that up. But basically, Krishna is making the point. Unless one does pious activities for so many lifetimes, how can he actually take up devotional service? And the point is, by the mercy of a Vaishnava, he can still take up, even though he's committing so much sinful activity. But the Vaishnava desire, Prabhupada desire, he should become a devotee. That's it. His journey starts, right? It's just the mercy of a Vaishnava needs to come, and that's it. That's it.
Isham Tvantagatam.
Yes, yesham tva antagatam papam jananam punya karmana. So many lifetimes. If he does punya, then Krishna is saying, then he can do Dridhavrita. He can take up devotional service in determination with that, firm determination. But here, by mercy of Vaishnava, it happens. So, okay, 39. Now we'll see. I think we read the Sanskrit, so we can continue with the translation.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
sorry, Prabhuji. To Mataji's point, like when the living entity leaves the body in a distressful condition or a torturous condition, will the symptoms carry forward to the next life?
I mean,
Those stressful situations, those memories will be there, and when he takes up the body again.
Not the memories, but the the condition in which that soul is going to, or that entity is going to live in. Like if you see some people, they're so happy, always they're happy, they are content, they are, satisfied. And then there are other group of people that are always tortured, they're always in negative mode. And they carry that forward, and the next, it just grows. That's my understanding.
So see, the point is like all these impressions are there on a subtle body. And next lifetime, we are getting the same, like the subtle body is carrying the soul into it. But it goes through a period where it is prepared to enter another body. So subtle body is going some further. But yes, all those impressions are there, the desires are there. And next lifetime, they will exhibit it in some other way. Right? Now, Krishna in the heart, he actually gives us certain element of forgetfulness. So that he is like so kind. He says, oh, you want to do that? You want to try this? One more thing? Okay, here, take this, take this, take this. Right? But it is the same subtle body which is carrying us. And we are defined more than a gross body by a subtle body. Gross body is what will keep changing. Who we are is a subtle body. And that's what is the impressions were stored, and that's what is carrying us to next lifetime. So there is certainly a connection, but it is exhibited in a different body, in different physical way, but that impressions are same person. And same subtle body is carrying those. Okay. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, 39. We read the Sanskrit. Can we read the English?
330 to 39, Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostic, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior. Nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material possessions. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so upadishit. So one should not teach this to who? Those are khalaya, envious, right? Who are agnostic, devoid of conduct as students, proud, misbehave, right? Hypocrites, right? Fixed in, yeah. Okay, then next 40 continues.
Na lolupayopadishan, na griharuda chetase, na bhaktaya chame jatu, na madbhakta disham api.
Mother, someone else can read. Hi.
Okay, who's next?
Hare Krishna. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead.
So it says, okay, na upadesit, same word is that here. One should not instruct this to who? Lolupaya, who are just too greedy, too attached to sense enjoyment. Griha arudha chetase, the ones too attached to family life. Abhaktya, non-devotee. So the way Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that these three Sanskrit, he said, okay, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And then he says, but never do what? Teach it to someone who's mad bhakta dvisham. The worst of all is those who are envious of devotees. Never teach this to them. The other, it takes it at one level, but this is the worst level. Those who are mad bhakta dvisham. Right? So they should be completely avoided. Okay. 41. So let's see who's qualified now.
Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya vinitaya nasuyave bhuteshu kritamaitraya shushushabhirataya cha.
Hare Krishna. Instruction should be given to faithful devotee who is respectable to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. Hare Krishna.
Right. So 41 he says, starts off with this, what? Shraddhanaya bhaktaya. So who is a faithful devotee? Teach them to that. Vinitaya, who is respectful to Guru, right? Then anasuyave. So this we see in Bhagavad Gita also the same word, anasuyave, right? Non-envious. Krita maitreya bhuteshu, who is friendly to all living entities. Shushrusho, abhirata, who is eager to render service or faithful service, right? So that person is all these are good qualifications to receive this knowledge. 42.
Bahirjata viragaya shantachitaya diyatam nirmatsaraya shuchaye yasyaham priyasham priyaha.
Translation. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment for that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness.
So if you see, last verse said Anusuyaya. This verse said Nirmatsaraya. One way, both of them means not envious. And previously what we saw, never teach to one who's envious. So the worst quality, the most, is actually this point of envy. And here again is saying, Bahi Jata Viragaya, who has developed detachment, for things which are outside Krishna consciousness. Shanta Vittaya, whose mind is peaceful, non-envious. Suchaya, who is perfectly cleansed. Yasya Aham Priyasam Priya. This is the best of all qualities. What is that? One who has taken Aham, me, Priyasam Priya, as who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than everything else. The one who has that, who's considered Krishna as my most dear object, that person is most qualified. Okay, and last verse, Falshruti.
Yaidam shinuyadamba shradaya purusha sakrit yo bhabhi machchitaha sayeti padavim chame. Vilasan.
This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual masters to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are non-envious.
Text 43, Mataji.
anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
So this is the Fal Shruti. So he says, "O mother, ya idam shunayet." Anyone who hears Shraddhaya with faith and he says Sakrit. Just once you hear, then he says Abhidhayate. Or if you repeat Machita with mind fixed on me, he eti padavim me. He will certainly attain my abode. So how Bhagavatam itself, every section of the Bhagavatam gives this benefit that just by hearing Bhagavatam, we are actually becoming qualified to go back home, back to Godhead, right? And here the Falshruti is anyone who hears this message actually can go back home, back to Godhead, right? Okay. So that concludes Kapil Dev's teachings. Kapila Deva ki jai.
Jai.
Right? So, one point in the previous purport, I didn't cover all the points in the purport, but Prabhupada, towards the end of the purport in 42, he talks about how a spiritual master should not accept a disciple who is not qualified. Right? And he says, a bona fide spiritual master must see the bona fide qualities of a person whom he is going to initiate. The Prabhupada is warning us. An unworthy person should not be initiated. The spiritual master should train his disciple in such a way so that in the future, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be the dearest goal of his life. Right? So that relationship between Guru and disciple, who should be initiated? So Guru's responsibility to make sure that the disciple is actually qualified, right? And hence that the principle in the process is at least 1 year. Both the guru sees the disciple and the disciple sees the guru, both before getting initiated. So that's why we have this process where we say, okay, we aspire for initiation, right? And then the guru will say, okay, I will see you for 1 year. And the guru sees, is this really serious about Krishna consciousness? Or he just wants a guru because that's just fashion. Everyone has a guru, I need a guru. Is he really serious? Right? So hence Prabhupada is making the point. Unworthy person should not be initiated. They should be serious about Krishna consciousness. They should understand that, yes, this is important for me. And hence I need that dependency on the guru should be there. That without the guru, I cannot progress. And hence I need a guru. It is a must. And then when that mood is there, then that person becomes qualified to get initiated. Okay. So, and here, thank you all so much. Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Any final comments?
I love the point how that only through a bhakta that we can actually understand all this, like through bhakti and then specifically through a devotee. Otherwise, it will just go over our heads or we'll fall into different traps.
Yeah.
And
Or
how you point
we,
about Prabhupada's purports.
or we hear it and still we don't hear it.
Mm.
Like yesterday we were talking on this point that how Ravan, he heard good advice so many times. So many people came and said, don't do this, Ravan. This will cause destruction. Don't do this. Don't do it. Again and again, again, again. But still, Ravan, he heard it, still did not hear it. Right? So that will be our situation. We hear it, but still we don't hear it. Right?
Mm.
It's only when a devotee says it, then makes sense. That's it. Let's go back home, back to God. Right? Yeah. Okay. Any other points?
Babaji, I was just relating it to what you said last week also, that and today also we read so many times. Then we don't know after how many millions of births we have got this rarest and the rarest of the rarest opportunity to be associated with Srila Prabhupada. Krishna's mercy. Huh?
Yes. Yeah, so the great fortune.
Prabhuji, I was meditating on the same point, and I was thinking how we are so fortunate that we are able to be in the association, get the taste. And it has, even if we look at this lifetime, like this life, we have gone through so much, like it's almost like the time it weaves us through associations, through people, through experiences, through everything, and gets us to a point where, you know, it is, we have that experience, and it's just very fortunate. But every little bit of every little bit that happens in our life has a meaning. It's like taking us forward. We have to always think about moving forward. That's what I was meditating on, and this chapter it just emphasizes that for
Now
me.
it's our duty to set the best example. You set the best standard. Perfect gentleman dealings. Huh?
Yeah.
Thank you for the nice points. Yeah. Okay, so next chapter will be our last chapter for third canto, and we'll be done with canto number 3. Right, so congratulations to all of you for keeping it going, just keeping and being there, being present, and following the flow of the Bhagavatam. So next chapter is a devotee will offer her prayers, and then we'll hear how devotee attains perfection, what Kapila Dev does after this, and then complete. Then fourth canto is a lot of stories. Then it's like gets into like Daksha and Lord Shiva. We'll start off with that. Then we'll come to Dhruva Maharaj, then Prithu Maharaj, and then it's like, so. Okay. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And also about
Thank you.
you can take it sometime this week also, but at least by next Saturday, please everyone complete your close book exam. Right? And this week, anytime you feel like, okay, I'm free this evening, you want to take, you can text me and I can send you the link. Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.